Most people believe debt is just a financial issue, but what if I told you it's also a spiritual battle? Credit cards, student loans, mortgages, they don't just drain your wallet. They drain your peace, your energy, and even your calling. And while the world tells you to accept debt as normal, the Bible reveals a path to freedom that most people overlook. Here's the shocking truth. Being broke isn't always about not making enough money. It's often about ignoring the wisdom God already gave us. While society celebrates spending, Scripture teaches strategies that not only eliminate debt, but build real wealth. And these secrets have been hidden in plain sight, waiting for those willing to apply them. This might sound controversial, but the Bible is more practical than Wall Street when it comes to money and business. From Joseph's economic plan in Egypt to the parable of the talents, God has always shown his people how to make money work for them, not against them. And today, those same principles can accelerate your debt payoff faster than any get-rich-quick scheme. If you like our content, consider supporting our ministry through the link in the description. So if you've ever felt stuck, buried under bills, or ashamed of your financial situation, take heart. The Bible has not left you without answers. Inside these 7 secrets lies a roadmap, not only to pay off debt fast, but to live free, generous, and ready for God's greater purpose for your life. Recognizing debt as a spiritual and financial bondage. Debt is not just about numbers on a bank statement. It's a chain that affects both spirit and wallet. Scripture warns in Proverbs 22:7, the borrower is the servant to the lender. When someone is buried in credit card payments, student loans, or overdue bills, they're not only trapped financially but spiritually as well. It robs peace, clouds decision-making, and even poisons relationships. Understanding debt as bondage is the first step to real freedom, because you can't fight an enemy you don't recognize. Think of Israel in Egypt, working, sweating, yet never moving ahead because their labor belonged to someone else. That's exactly how modern debt feels. Every paycheck goes straight to Visa, MasterCard, or the bank before you can even buy groceries. And while society says this is normal, the Bible shows that God never designed his people to live as slaves. He created us to steward money wisely, not to be enslaved by it. Debt also steals opportunities. Imagine having a chance to start a business, invest in real estate, or even give generously to missions. But you can't, because interest payments eat up your income. This is how debt blocks divine assignments. The Bible constantly highlights that when we're free, we're available to serve God fully. Bondage limits both calling and creativity. Many Christians don't see the spiritual side of debt. They think it's just about bad math or lack of budgeting. But behind every overdue bill is the subtle whisper of anxiety, fear, and shame. These are not fruits of the Spirit. They're chains. And when you start to view debt as a spiritual matter, you begin to take the fight seriously. You stop treating it like an inconvenience and start treating it like warfare. A practical step here is to write down every debt you owe, name them, face them like Goliath. Just as David couldn't conquer what he refused to confront, you can't pay off debt if you keep ignoring the statements. Take a pen, list your balances, interest rates, and minimum payments. Seeing the truth might sting, but it's also liberating. It gives you the clarity needed to create a battle plan to make money work for you, not against you. And here's the beautiful thing. God never exposes chains without offering keys. If he shows you that debt is bondage, it's because he's already prepared the wisdom, discipline, and supernatural favor you'll need to break free. That's where the journey begins, by admitting you're in a prison and daring to believe God has an exit door. And once you open your eyes to this reality, the next step naturally unfolds. The secret of contentment, living below your means. Contentment is not laziness, it's wisdom in action. Paul wrote in Philippians 4:11, "I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances." This verse is powerful because it shows that contentment isn't natural, it's learned. And in a culture where money is often wasted on appearances, learning to live below your means becomes a spiritual weapon against debt. When someone stops chasing every trend and starts valuing what truly matters, debt begins to lose its grip. Living below your means doesn't mean living without joy. It means shifting priorities. Instead of financing a luxury car with payments that crush your budget, you choose a reliable used car and redirect the extra cash to pay off debt faster. It's about asking, do I really need this? Or am I just feeding a lifestyle that makes me look successful but keeps me broke? That's exactly what many business owners learn. The image of wealth can bankrupt you if it isn't rooted in wisdom. A practical tool here is the 24-hour rule. Whenever you feel the urge to buy something that isn't essential, wait a day. This pause interrupts impulse buying and creates space for prayer and reflection. Most people discover that the must-have wasn't so urgent after all. The discipline of waiting aligns perfectly with biblical wisdom, reminding us that patience is more profitable than instant gratification. The secret of contentment also builds resilience. People who live below their means are less shaken by economic downturns, job losses, or recessions. When the American market crashes and others panic, those who have built margin into their lives stay steady. They have emergency funds, no oversized mortgage, and peace in their spirit. They don't just survive, they thrive, because they know how to make money stretch with divine strategy. Biblically, this principle echoes Joseph's preparation in Egypt. He saved grain during the 7 years of abundance, so that when famine came, there was no panic. That's what living below your means does. It prepares you for storms before they arrive. Imagine if every household applied this today. Less fear, less debt, and more freedom to invest, to give, and to build. And here's the key. Contentment doesn't kill ambition, it purifies it. When your heart is free from the lust of constant upgrades, you can focus on investments and business ideas that truly multiply your resources. Living below your means isn't about shrinking your dreams. It's about strengthening your foundation. And once this principle is embraced, it naturally paves the way for the discipline of budgeting. The power of discipline. Budgeting as a biblical practice. Budgeting might sound boring, but in reality, it's one of the most spiritual acts of stewardship a believer can practice. Luke 14:28 asks, "Which of you, wanting to build a tower, does not first sit down and count the cost?" That's budgeting in action. It's not about restriction, it's about direction. When you tell your money where to go instead of wondering where it went, you step into alignment with God's order. Think of a budget as a map. Without it, you're wandering in financial wilderness, like Israel circling the desert for 40 years. With it, you know exactly which path leads out of debt and toward freedom. In business, no serious entrepreneur would operate without financial planning. The same applies to personal finances. If companies track every dollar, why shouldn't households do the same? A practical step here is the 50-30-20 rule. 50% of your income for needs, 30% for wants, and 20% for debt payoff and savings. For someone drowning in debt, that 20% might become 30% or more until the chains are broken. Apps like Mint or YNAB can make this simple, helping you see in real time where your money flows. Remember, discipline isn't punishment, it's preparation for abundance. Budgeting also teaches humility. It forces you to admit your limits and live within them. That humility is the opposite of pride-driven spending that says, "I deserve this now." Proverbs 21:5 reminds us, "The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty." Budgeting transforms haste into wisdom, replacing anxiety with clarity. In the American market, families who budget consistently are proven to build wealth faster than those who earn more but spend recklessly. This shows that discipline outweighs income. Someone making $60,000 a year with a strong budget can outpace someone making $120,000 but living paycheck to paycheck. It's not about how much you make money, it's about how you manage it. And here's the beauty. Budgeting is contagious. Once you experience the peace of knowing every dollar has an assignment, you start to hunger for more discipline in every area: health, time, relationships. It's a ripple effect that touches the whole life, and this ripple prepares you to unlock another hidden, biblical secret that many overlook: generosity. Generosity as a key to break financial curses. It may sound upside down, but one of the fastest ways to break free from debt is not by holding tighter to money, but by opening your hand. Proverbs 11:24 declares, "One person gives freely, yet gains even more. Another withholds unduly, but comes to poverty." Generosity is a spiritual law. When you sow, you invite God's blessing over your finances, breaking the cycle of fear and scarcity that debt creates. Debt thrives on fear, the fear of not having enough. But generosity declares, "God is my source, not my paycheck." When a believer tithes or blesses someone in need, they are making a prophetic statement: "My trust is in heaven's economy." And here's the paradox. The more you give with the right heart, the more you receive, not always instantly in money, but in opportunities, peace, and favor that open unexpected doors. Think about business leaders known for their philanthropy. Many of them testify that giving didn't weaken their companies, it strengthened them. In the same way, when households choose to give even while paying off debt, they align with God's principles. It's not about ignoring obligations, but about putting Him first. Malachi 3:10 promises that when we bring the tithe, God will open the windows of heaven and pour out blessing. That's supernatural math. Practically, someone can start with small acts, setting aside even $10 a week for generosity, sponsoring a child, or helping a struggling neighbor. The act itself builds faith. Over time, it transforms the mindset from "I can't afford to give" to "I can't afford not to give." That's when chains begin to loosen. Because generosity attacks the very root of debt, fear of lack. This principle also resets priorities. Instead of chasing fleeting pleasures, generosity redirects money into eternal investments. Jesus said in Matthew 6:21, "Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Giving reminds us that true wealth isn't in things. It's an impact. When you see your resources blessing others, the desire to overspend on empty status symbols fades. And here's where it gets even more exciting. Generosity doesn't just break curses, it positions you for multiplication. Once fear is broken and your heart is anchored in God's provision, diligence and work ethic flow with a new strength. And that leads us to the next biblical secret: the power of hard work. Diligence and work ethic, God's design to make money. The Bible never celebrates laziness. Instead, it honors diligence as the pathway to prosperity. Proverbs 10:4 teaches, "Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth." Debt often lingers not because people don't earn enough, but because they don't maximize the opportunities God places in their hands. Diligence is God's design to make money flow, whether through a job, a side business, or wise investments. Work ethic isn't about working endlessly, it's about working wisely. The American market rewards problem solvers, innovators, and those who add value. A Christian who approaches their job with excellence, integrity, and creativity will always stand out. Think of Daniel in Babylon. His diligence brought him before kings. In today's context, diligence can mean showing up early, learning new skills, or taking initiative where others don't. A practical step is for someone to identify one high-income skill, like coding, digital marketing, or financial analysis, and dedicate focused time to mastering it. These skills create avenues to make money faster and reduce debt quicker. It's not about chasing every trend, but about sharpening one sword that can open doors for decades. The Bible affirms this in Ecclesiastes 9:10. "Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might." Diligence also means staying consistent when results are slow. Many give up too quickly, expecting instant success. But just as a farmer doesn't see harvest overnight, financial progress comes with time. The discipline of showing up every day, whether at the office, in a business venture, or managing personal budgets, eventually compounds into freedom. Faith combined with daily effort becomes unstoppable. In the US, many millionaires are not lottery winners or overnight successes. They are ordinary people who worked diligently, lived below their means, and invested steadily. This truth should encourage every believer. You don't need extraordinary luck. You need extraordinary consistency. The American dream isn't dead, it just requires a biblical work ethic. And here's the beauty. Diligence doesn't just pay off debt, it builds capacity for abundance. Once you've mastered diligence, the next natural question arises. How do you multiply what you've earned so it grows beyond your effort? That's where wisdom in business and investing enters the stage. Wisdom in business. Investing and multiplying like the servants. In Matthew 25. Jesus' parable of the talents in Matthew 25 is one of the clearest biblical lessons on money. The master gave resources to his servants, expecting them to multiply what was entrusted. 2 invested and doubled their portion, but 1 buried his talent out of fear. The lesson is timeless. God expects his people not just to earn, but to multiply. Investing wisely is not greed. It's obedience to the mandate of stewardship. In today's world, multiplication can mean starting a business, buying dividend-paying stocks, or investing in rental properties. The American market offers countless opportunities, but without wisdom, they become traps. That's why Proverbs 24:3 says, "By wisdom a house is built, and through understanding it is established." It's not about chasing hype. It's about solid strategic moves that align with biblical principles. A practical example is dollar-cost averaging in index funds. Instead of trying to time the market, disciplined investors put in a fixed amount each month, letting compounding do the heavy lifting. Over time, that steady approach outperforms impulsive trading. This mirrors the parable. Slow, consistent stewardship yields growth, while burying opportunities leads to loss. Wisdom also means discernment between assets and liabilities. Buying a luxury car on credit drains wealth, while buying a duplex to rent out creates income. This difference determines whether debt keeps you enslaved or becomes a tool to build freedom. In business, the same principle applies. Invest in systems, training, and people that generate long-term returns, not just in flashy marketing gimmicks. The Bible shows us real investors too. Joseph stored grain not to hoard, but to sell later when demand was high. That strategy saved nations. In the same way, modern believers can look ahead, anticipate trends, and prepare wisely. Markets will rise and fall, but wisdom keeps you grounded and fruitful. And here's the secret. Many overlook, wisdom in business and investing isn't just about making money. It's about multiplying influence for the kingdom. Once you see investments as tools for impact, patience becomes easier. And that patience leads us directly into the final secret: trusting God's timing. Faith and patience, trusting God's timing for debt freedom. The Bible makes it clear that debt freedom isn't always instant. Hebrews 6:12 says, "Imitate those who through faith and patience inherit the promises." Many want a quick fix, but God often uses the process to shape character. Debt may have taken years to build, and the journey out requires both faith in His provision and patience to walk step by step. This combination turns the struggle into a classroom where endurance and trust are forged. Faith means believing that even in debt, God has a plan to restore. It's declaring daily, "My future is not determined by my credit score, but by God's promises." This perspective keeps hope alive when the numbers look impossible. In business, faith looks like continuing to build and innovate even when revenue lags. It's holding to the vision when reality whispers doubt. Patience, on the other hand, guards against reckless decisions. Many people desperate to make money fast fall for scams or risky ventures. Patience reminds us that true wealth is steady and tested. Just as farmers wait for harvest, believers wait for financial freedom, knowing that seeds of discipline, generosity, and diligence will eventually bear fruit. The waiting is not wasted, it matures us. A practical example is using the snowball method to pay off debts, starting with the smallest balance, paying it off, then rolling that payment into the next. It's slow at first, but momentum builds. Faith sustains the vision, and patience fuels consistency. Over time, what felt like chains become testimonies of victory. This principle also extends beyond money. Waiting on God's timing brings peace in relationships, careers, and business growth. When impatience tries to push you into unnecessary loans or hasty deals, faith and patience whisper, God's plan is better. His timing not only frees you from debt, but positions you for lasting abundance. And here's the beautiful end of the journey. Once faith and patience have done their work, you'll look back and realize debt was never just about numbers. It was about transformation. And as you embrace this truth, you'll see why all the secrets come together to form God's master plan for financial freedom. Debt freedom isn't just about balancing numbers. It's about stepping into the life God intended for you. You've now seen the 7 biblical secrets that can accelerate your journey. Recognizing debt as bondage, practicing contentment, budgeting with discipline, sowing generosity, embracing diligence, investing with wisdom, and walking by faith and patience. But knowing the secrets is only half the battle. The real change happens when you act. So let me ask you, how much longer will you let debt hold the pen that writes your story? What could your business, your family, and your future look like if you applied these principles starting today? Are you willing to confront fear, reject excuses, and finally take authority over your money? Write in the comments, "I'll pay all my debts in Jesus' name." And watch how this powerful declaration begins to shift the course of your business and your finances from this day forward. Debt may have shaped your past, but it doesn't have to define your future. God has already provided the wisdom. You only need to walk in it. If this message touched your heart, consider supporting our ministry through the link in the description. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next teaching. Your freedom starts now.